And good afternoon, 12:05 in the afternoon, right here on 90.3 FM. Always good to hear that song, String of Pearls. Never get tired of it. And that means when we air that song, it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. And let's get things going right now as we introduce what I like to call our BOGO. And we get two for the price of one. We have the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the host here of the show, Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper. You know, you're coming up with a lot of, colorful descriptors. You know, I was thinking about the high cotton thing because, as you remember, last week we were dodging snow.
That's right.
Unbelievable, the weather. I made a comment at some place that we were, and we said, I wonder when we get to move back to Florida. It was just unusual. But so it's nice to see that the weather is back and returning, and it's good. So
it sure is, absolutely.
We're loving it. So anyway, it's always fun to gather around the radio here at 90.3 FM WEJF. It's our Wednesday lunchtime gathering, and we really are grateful that you are here and tuned in with us. We got some good things to talk about today. We're going to talk about a whole lot of things, but let me go ahead and introduce our very special guest. He's a great friend of the Helping Seniors organization, has really helped us in so many ways, but he's a good person that you should know too. His name is Carlos Cuesta, and he is the head of an organization called Synergy HomeCare of Palm Bay and Melbourne. And in addition to being a real expert at providing good home care, his own personal background I think is very cool and very appropriate to the conversation we're going to have. But he spent 35 years in human resources, and if there's ever a job that you need people who are very good human resource people, it's this kind of a business where you're talking about working with people day in, day out. Welcome to the show, Carlos. How are you today?
Hey, Kerry. I'm happy to be back. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we're going to our topic for today that we kind of put out there is I wanted to have this conversation about what to look for in home care so that you're getting the right kind of home care. What are some tips from an expert, and who better to talk to us about this than Carlos? Before we get there, I want to share a couple of things for your calendar just so you can keep all this in mind, because we are starting to get really busy with some good things that are going on for seniors in our area. One of our favorite things is these excellent senior expos that Nina Varuso pulls together. She has a company called Platinum Events Promotions, and we've been friends together almost since the day that Joe Steckler, the founder of Helping Seniors, got this whole thing rolling, and that's almost 15 years ago now. And so tomorrow, I'm talking about Thursday, January 30th, she is doing the Senior Lifestyle Expo, and it's going to be at the Wickham Park Community Center, so 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Now, whenever Nina does these, they're absolutely free. There's top senior services experts there. There's free coffee and snack stations, door prizes every 10 minutes, and there's all kinds of good information that is there for you. Carlos, you've been to a lot of these, and many times you've actually displayed at some of these Nina events. They really are a good way for seniors to get good information, I think.
Yeah, when I have attended those, Kerry, the turnout is amazing.
Yeah.
The resources that are there are amazing. Everyone that has a table and to share what they can do for our community are really there with a good heart to help. And I know the seniors that I've spoken to that have attended these expos have been very happy by attending. And it's like you said, it's free.
Yeah, that's a point. First of all, it's a great opportunity to pick up some great goodies because everybody has pens, hand sanitizers. They have all these different things, marked with their company's name on it so you'll remember the company. So that's fun. I mean, that part's fun. The snacks are fun. The door prizes are fun. But probably what is really beneficial is that I call it kind of like one-stop shopping. You can go to one location, and you can go around and probably visit someplace between 35 and 60 different tables and displays that will have information. Some may be very important to you right at this moment. Some you might want to just learn about for later. And not only that, she invites a lot of the nonprofits. Helping Seniors is always out at Nino's shows because she always wants to make sure that community resources are well represented in there as well. So tomorrow, Nancy Deerdorf, our Director of Development, is going to be out there with Helping Seniors Table. And I think you said you're going to be out and being part of it, walking around a little bit tomorrow too.
Yeah, I wouldn't miss it. Every time I've gone, I've made great contacts.
Yeah.
I've learned about different partners in our community, and it's been very beneficial. So I don't miss it. Unfortunately, I won't have a table there, but I will be making my rounds, and I'll be making the next expo.
Yeah.
But again, come on out, bring a friend, bring a family member. There may be resources they can use.
Yeah, there's absolutely, that's so true. So again, we're talking about Senior Lifestyle Expo. This is tomorrow, Thursday, January 30th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Wickham Park Community Center. Another thing I would like for you to consider for your calendar for this weekend, I just asked Jose to consider it for his calendar for this weekend because he helped us with this last year, and he said, I think I can give you guys a hand. I am talking about what has become almost like a little Helping Seniors family tradition that we always kick off our raffle. This is our Helping Seniors car raffle. I was just explaining to somebody yesterday, we were doing a training session, Carlos, because Karen Warnland, who is our center director, was training a whole new group of volunteers. And she said, Kerry, would you come in and talk a little bit about the work of Helping Seniors and some of that? And so as we were talking about it, I said, I was explaining that how our funding works for Helping Seniors. The car raffle literally is about half of the resources that we need to generate each year to do the work of Helping Seniors. And the work of Helping Seniors, as you know, gets bigger by the day because there's just more seniors, and we just stay more busy with it. So the car raffle, I think we already announced the grand drawing date. Mark Pylock, the owner of the American Muscle Car Museum right there on Sarno, has already been kind enough to give us the date and say, you guys are welcome to come back here Sunday afternoon, October 26th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. We're gonna have just such a fun time. It will be very similar to what we did this past year, which everybody really enjoyed. It was an inside-outside event. It's going to be bigger and more to do even this year because we've got a little bit more time to put it all together. We're excited about that. So Sunday, October 26th, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Get that on your calendar now so that you make sure you're in town. And the deal is actually very similar to what it has been. AJ Hires, who has helped us with the car raffle going all the way back to when Joe was using the car raffle as a way to fund those Joe's Clubs that he was building for Brevard Alzheimer's. AJ said, yeah, you guys can run with the same cars this year that you did last year. It was 7 great choices, Carlos. If you remember, there was everything in that mix from the Dodge Hornet, which is a little sporty, speedy one, to there was the Mazda Miata made a return in there. And if you remember, our winner, Jim Newman of Cocoa, he ended up picking out a beautiful Chevrolet Chevrolet Colorado blacked out pickup truck. I mean, the truck is gorgeous. Oh, gorgeous, my goodness. Yeah. So what has happened is the unofficial kickoff, and I guess now it's maybe becoming more official because we do it every year, has always been at this great car show that they have out in Satellite Beach. And it's hosted by Trinity Well Springs Church right out there, South Patrick Drive, pretty close to the entrance to the Space Force Base. And as you might expect a church to name it, they call it the Higher Power Car Show. And it's actually the 16th annual. So it's February 1st, Saturday. We're going to be out there from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Trinity Well Springs Church right there on South Patrick Drive, fairly close to where you go into the Space Force Base. And it is a big car show, Carlos. If you were there, you saw how many cars were out there.
I can't believe it's been a year already.
I know.
Time flies. And when I was there, it was first time last year, and the cars were amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful cars, all brands, all years. The weather should be beautiful again. So
yeah.
Nice to visit, make the walk, there'll be food there, I guess.
Yeah.
I had a great time. Yeah. I had a great time, met a lot of people again, and again, took a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
Shared them with a lot of my friends, so it's an event you don't want to miss.
No, it really is a great time out there, and it's also a chance for us to kind of show off the cars. And they already told us we're going to be able to bring out the Mitsubishi Outlander, which is a very nice, sporty SUV vehicle. Carlos, you remember not last year, But the year before, our winner, Diane Pielak, that's what she said. I want the Mitsubishi Outlander. She's tooling around in a Mitsubishi. This is our 9th annual car raffle. We've been doing this a couple of times, but it's so fun to get out there because a lot of people come out and say, I want to be first in. They think there's maybe some special luck in getting early into the drawing. Well, it is kind of true because our winner last year, he bought his ticket very early in the season, Carlos, because I think you were there at that event when Jim Newman came up and bought his ticket. We were there. He actually had gotten tickets at an American Muscle Car event that was happening early in the year. So some people say maybe I have better luck or something if I get a ticket early. And some people, so this is the first moment that you could actually get a ticket on site. So come on out and join us for that. It's this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I don't want to belabor it, but it is so much fun, Carlos, as you know. And the other thing is we bring cameras out because we want to show off the cars a little bit and talk up the raffle. So we'll do a little bit of TV filming and things like that there as well. So that's Saturday. So now with that, on to today's program. You know, Carlos, I got to ask you, as a guy who spent 35 years doing HR, I got to think that's a very complicated business because you really got to learn people and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just, I shouldn't say this, but it's really been like almost 40 years now.
Wow.
I know I look very young, Kerry, so thank you. I appreciate the compliment. But, yeah, you know, I started back in like the early 80s.
Yeah.
And I've worked for worldwide companies like Kelly Services, if you remember, they used to call the Kelly Girl people, and Manpower, and I've worked in 5 different states as a recruiter, management, and vice president, CEO, so around the country. And I've met and I've hired and I recruited, I've hired and placed all types of workers. Anywhere from low entry level all the way up to IT and executive level.
Wow. You know, it's funny because I think it's so interesting to me. I had this conversation with Dr. Sheldon, who is the noted area periodontist, the other day, and we were talking about how really some incredibly talented people who have like this incredible resume of experiences, they end up settling in our area because this is just everybody wants to move to Florida now. But how did you get to Palm Bay, Melbourne area, and then what led you to move yourself into the home care business, which you've been doing now for quite some time?
Yeah, it's funny because everything I've done in my life has led me to this.
Right.
And I've lived in Vegas, I've lived in the Carolinas, New Jersey, Miami, Orlando, Palm Bay. And I never saw myself in Palm Bay. And here I am, right? So when I wanted to get out of the corporate world, I decided, hey, I would like to look for a occupation or business that I can enjoy, but maybe a business that I know a little bit about. And this home care, right?
Yeah.
You're recruiting candidates, you're qualifying them, and you're placing them, and you're helping families. So when this opportunity was approached me about 3.5 years ago, I jumped on it.
Yeah.
And, we thought Palm Bay is a great city. We were living in Kissimmee at the time.
Yeah.
And thought, hey, Palm Bay, Melbourne's growing. There's a need here. And, we have an opportunity, again, to find employment for good workers.
Yeah.
And help families at the same time. It's a win-win.
See, I was going to say that. That's why your background, I think, is so important to this conversation that we're having, is because the only way it's ever going to work in recruiting and HR and all that kind of it is when you put the right person together with the right person, right? I mean, because even though you get hired by a company, you're going to be in a department, you got to get all that's got to fit together right. And I guess that's a very special skill that you're able to do when you're matching up families with caregivers and you're trying to make sure that that's the right thing that's going to really advance that situation.
Yeah, previous to Synergy Home Care, in my corporate world, I always worked with my clients is let's find you employees with the experience, reliability, but also the culture fit.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned. So coming into Synergy Home Care, we're one of 540 locations now.
Yeah.
The fastest growing franchise in our industry nationwide, and we're all individually owned. So as an owner here, I said I could really contribute.
Yeah.
And then, again, finding those employees, who's reliable, who's dependable, who do we want on our team that's going to work well with our clients. So we really match them up. I'm a matchmaker.
See, this is the part that I really wanted us to kind of dive into. You're hitting on it now. Is like so many people realize there's a point where, could be that you're the spouse or significant other of a loved one, and maybe everything is getting a little bit overwhelming because you're trying to take care of yourself and take care of them, and it's getting a little beyond what you can do. Maybe you're the adult children who are a little bit worried about mom, dad, aunt, uncle, whoever it is. And maybe you want to do more, but you can't with your schedule. Maybe you're even out of town or things like that. So the point is you have to get a hold of somebody that you can know and trust to be at home. And the thing is, I've seen so many, you and I both have talked about this so many times. In fact, collectively, we're working on a program with our friends at ARP. It's going to be called Scam Jam because so many seniors find themselves at the receiving end of these scams. And so what we were talking about, though, one of the most dangerous areas is somebody plucks a business card, down at the library or over at a grocery store, bulletin board or something like that. Somebody will come in, I'll help watch mom or dad or whatever, and you bring somebody in, but you have no idea who you're really bringing in. And Carlos, you've heard the horror stories too.
Yeah, I actually sat down with a family this week, and they're contemplating, do we hire someone on our own or do we bring someone through an agency?
Yeah.
And there's pros and cons of both sides, but what the agency gives you is peace of mind.
Yes.
You're getting a caregiver in your home with your loved one who has been background checked, who's been reference checked, and who is fully bonded insurance-wise. If something were to happen, if they were to get hurt, you as a homeowner are not at risk. But that's the peace of mind, having someone who's been checked out thoroughly, interviewed, and then matched up well with your family.
Yeah.
And that's key versus just hiring somebody. Who are you allowing into your house?
That's the point, because that's what I really wanted to ask you. Like, what are your thoughts? If you're a family, you say, listen, I'm acknowledging now is the time I've got to do something, but I'm not even sure because, I always say aging is on the job training. You just start to run into these things, and now you're having to kind of like learn as you go. What are some tips that you're going to say to somebody, the family calls us, we're trying to sort this out, what we should do. How do you lead somebody through so that they can make the best decisions?
Well, first of all, we try to educate them. And then we set up by the phone when they first call me.
Yeah.
And then we actually set up a time. We go into their home. And what we do, we put a care plan together, what the needs are, the days and the hours they need somebody to come in. But one thing that we go a step further is, what is that family like? What is their personality? What does their loved one, if they had someone with them 6 or 7 or 8 hours a day, what do they enjoy doing during that day?
Yeah.
Is it watching TV? Is it going for a walk? Is it watching sports? Is it playing games? Is it going shopping? Yeah. Is it going to go get ice cream? So we match up a caregiver that would have that same kind of likes, because they're going to build some kind of trust and relationship.
Yeah.
Especially if that caregiver is going to be there on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
And that's key, and that's where we really excel, Kerry. We do a really good job, and when someone applies with us, we bring them in. We meet everybody. They come in. We put them through what's called a behavior interview. And we're looking for things like dependability, reliability, and experience. That's all important. But we're also looking for caregivers that really care.
Yeah.
Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Absolutely.
So do they come in to visit us on their interview? Are they on time? Are they dressed appropriately? Do they make good eye contact? Do they answer the questions? Do they smile? Is it someone? And our true test is, would I put that person with my mom or dad?
Yeah.
And that's key. Would I do? If the answer is no, why would I put them in your home?
Exactly.
So that's key.
So again, here's why. It's funny, Carlos, as you know, you've been around helping seniors. Joe always talked about it. He called it making an aging plan. We kind of euphemistically calling it getting your ducks in a row. But basically, we're just saying, like, be aware and start thinking and organize your thoughts about things that you might run into as you go down the road. Home care absolutely is very much a core element of that aging plan, because most people say, I would like to age in place. I want to stay home as long as I can. I realize some point I might need some help, but you really have to know who you're bringing into your home. And so as a corollary to this whole, like, let's make a plan, let's get your ducks in a row, we say, please don't try this on your own, because we see answering the Helping Seniors info line 4,000 plus times last year. We see so many crisis situations where people call up and say, well, this is what's happened. Now I got to figure this out. And we're going to work with them to try to make it happen. But I can tell you, Karen and the team that answers the phone, they are so delighted when it's non-crisis and somebody's trying to get information to help them navigate what might come down the road. Like, okay, in 3 or 4 months, I might need to do this. because they have a wealth of time to explore options. They have a wealth of options as opposed to, well, this has to be done Monday morning. So now, now you're down to what few options are available, and usually those are very costly. Here, if you can start to take a look at this very early, you're able to do that. So we say, but don't do this on your own. It's like I said, don't pluck that business card off of the, the bulletin board, because what Carlos and I, you could probably speak to this even better than I can, but I've certainly heard Sheriff talk about it. I've heard Greg Vesta, the police chief of West Melbourne, talk about this. I've heard the ARP scam people talk about this, who are really ear to the ground on this. Even our public attorney here in Brevard County, who publishes a thing called the Monthly Brief, they talk about the fact that the problem is when you go outside and you get somebody that you don't know, then if there's a problem in the home, you get rid of them, and those things don't often get reported, or the damage, how much ended up missing or whatever, and then that person goes and repeats it because they were embarrassed, they thought, and they never reported it. So that person goes from place to place and oftentimes repeats that. Whereas when you call all of that's off the table because you're the folks.
Yeah, and we fortunately, thank you, we have not had that issue.
Yeah.
But our clients who have 24/7 access to myself and Anna, who are the owners.
Yeah.
So if a client were to have an emergency or a need, they can call us and we'll be over there. I've been in clients' homes at midnight, 1 in the morning, Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, whatever they need. So we're we stay very close to our clients to know what's happening, what's the quality, if our caregiver is doing their job.
Right.
And if there's any issues. And really, we've done very well. And again, I'm very thankful for that. But it's a lot of the experience, a lot of work that we put into this to make sure that our clients are well taken care of.
Well, and it's not only that. There's the fact that this isn't your first rodeo, meaning that not only do you have the experience, but you're backed up by a company that you said how many locations nationwide?
Well, right now, I have about 540 locations nationwide.
So I guarantee you there's not much that they haven't run into. And, collectively, when you put all that brain trust together, there's a lot of experience in that. We're talking with Carlos Cuesta with Synergy HomeCare of Palm Bay and Melbourne. We're going to continue the conversation after mid-show break, but I do want to stop down and make sure people can get a second, grab a pencil, write down a number, get some information, because as we're going to dig deeper into this whole topic in the second half of the show, how do people get in touch with you, Carlos? What's a good way for them to actually learn specifically maybe how this could help them in their situation?
The best way, Kerry, is just to give me a call at 321-340-3828. 321-340-3828, extension 101, and you'll get me.
Yeah. Or better yet, come out Saturday to the car show.
Hey, Saturday, I'm going to be there.
Carlos will be a TV star because he'll be hawking raffle tickets and helping us in the help.
I'll be the good-looking guy with messy hair.
Okay, that'll work. So with that, Carlos Cuesta from Synergy HomeCare, we'll be back with more Helping Seniors in just a moment.
Music of your life, Kerry, Fink.
I love it.
It sounds good, doesn't it?
It's
String
great.
of pearls there, but we always enjoy hearing that as the theme song of our program every Wednesday afternoon. I'm John Harper. Kerry Fink is the host of the show, and by the way, as I like to say, we get a BOGO on that because Kerry is also the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Good show going on this afternoon, Kerry, and let's get back into it.
Well, thank you, John Harper, and thank you. It's always great to be on the radio here, lunchtime Wednesdays, noon to 1 p.m., right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF, and those listening online at WEJF.net. And hello to you, too, if you're listening as a podcast, because we make sure that these radio broadcasts are always distributed out on every podcast platform. So we work with Apple, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Hey, Alexa, play me Helping Seniors. I mean, any place you'd find a podcast, you're going to find Helping Seniors Radio available. One of the reasons we do that is sometimes people, it's not convenient for them to catch the show. Maybe they're at an appointment or something else that's going on right at that time. So, or sometimes people miss one part of the show and say, that was really good conversation. I'd like to hear the rest of it. And then a third thing happens is somebody says, well, this is really good information because Bobby is trying to sort this situation out in their family, and if they could just hear this show, this would be perfect for them. And so this is great because then people can share that link. And the show that we're talking about today is we want to help you kind of map a roadmap to understand great ways to find good help at home, or really tips from an expert what to look for. And our expert in the house is none other than Carlos Cuesta. He is the owner of Synergy Home Care and Synergy Home Care here in Palm Bay and Melbourne. And we were talking in the first half of the show, 35 now close to 40 years of experience in working HR. So really just perfect at getting the right people together to make good things happen. And that's so important, I guess, in the home care world. And we were talking about things to not do in the home care world, and that's just pluck a business card off of, or worse yet, some kind of an online checklist or something, where you don't really know the person because they're just flat not vetted. And we were talking in the first half that there are so many stories of scams where somebody thought they were bringing in somebody to help mom, but really that person just helped themselves to whatever mom had. And this is one of the reasons why you want to really talk to an expert who's reputable, who's doing this the right way. We were talking during the break that you're licensed, and that's not easy. You were saying that here in Florida, some of the things that you go through are so maybe above and beyond that what you see in other states, that a lot of times they're coming to you to ask you for advice on how to do it right. Talk about that, Carlos.
Yeah. Florida is one of the most highly regulated states, Kerry, in the country. Why? Because of the senior population.
Sure.
So there's two licenses you can get. There's one called companionship, which it's pretty simple to get, and that's providing companionship.
Yeah.
But the caregiver cannot touch the client. And then the license we also have is called personal care. Now, that license took about 8 to 9 months to get that.
Wow.
Through the state of Florida. And before they awarded us with that license, the state of Florida came into our office. Beautiful lady, but she rearranged my entire office like a classroom. She was there for 8 hours. I think I treated her to lunch or dinner. I don't know what it was. No, it was in the office. Just kidding. But she was actually there 8 hours.
Wow.
Went through all our files, our systems and everything. And then they can audit us they do audit us every 2 years.
Yeah.
Whether it's our office, whether it's a website, they can do knock, knock, good morning, here I am with no notice.
Yeah.
And come in, which is great because it keeps us, focused on what we need to do.
Right.
To take care of our clients, but it also helps the family.
Yeah.
That's a reputable company who's licensed.
Yeah.
And that the state of Florida has approved.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, too, because I remember thinking early on, so again, my own background is I came out of the media business, and I met Joe when Joe was beginning helping seniors like 15 years ago, and he said, Kerry, we got to do more to educate seniors and their families. And I really didn't know. So when I heard the term home care, I really didn't know what that meant. Then you're already bringing another dimension into the discussion because you're talking about there's a couple of different licenses at play. So let's talk about what companion care can do just for a minute. How can that help a senior on that level, and then what happens when you move up to that next level that you're talking about?
Well, the companionship and the personal care, it's similar with the exception of personal care hands-on.
Yeah.
So with both licenses, companionship, you can help a client meal prep, you can do some light housekeeping, you can do some laundry. But when we have the personal care license, which we do have, now you can help the client bathe, showering,
dressing,
right, mobility, getting in and out of bed, getting into or out of a car if you need to take them to a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
So now it's hands-on, and that's the big difference, and that's what most families actually need.
Yeah.
That's 99.9% of my business.
So I didn't even realize that there's different licenses. Then you have to know when you're talking to a home care agency what their abilities are on that, right?
Yeah, you got to make sure, and that's, when families call me, I always educate them. Mm-hmm. Make sure the agency you choose has the personal care license.
Right.
And make sure they're an agency, not a registry.
Yeah, let's move into that next thing, because I think this is an area that people don't understand also. Like, you just pluck out a term home care and you think, okay, they're going to send somebody to my home. But there is a difference, right? Because I asked you this during the break as we were having a little bit of a conversation. I said, but this means that these people that go into people's homes under Synergy Home Care, they are actually your employees. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, our caregivers are W-2 employees. So they're fully bonded, insurance, workers' comp, liability insurance, fully bonded. So if something were to happen in the family's home, they're covered. versus that's an agency. That's what we are, Synergy. And then you have the registries, which we are not. And what they do, they hire their caregivers, but they're self-contractors. So those caregivers are responsible on getting their own insurance, whether it's workers' comp, whether it's liability insurance, and the caregivers have to pay their own taxes at the end of the year as well.
Yeah.
Because they're 1099s.
Yeah.
Which many of them don't like doing that.
Yeah.
They prefer working for an agency where we take care of the W-2, W-4, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I was going to say also, too, I understand. First of all, we've had this conversation before. Nurse registries are absolutely legal. There's also some regulations there. But there is a difference because I think what I remember about employment law, and you know much more about this as your background in HR, is that when somebody is a contractor, they really are functioning as their own, and there's tests that, can you dictate hours? There's all these tests that say, are you a contractor or are you an employee? The employee, what I do remember out of that from the business world is when you employ somebody, you really do have a right to be a little bit more into the business about what's happening and what's going on and to prescribe how you want the work to be done. And again, I'm talking about just generally in the business world, but I think some of that's got to flow through.
Yeah, the W-2, we're their supervisor.
Yeah.
So we, direct and we supervise and make sure they're doing the right things and following the right procedures. For example, where our caregivers by law can give medication reminders, but they cannot give medication. They cannot conduct injections, that sort of thing. That's by law. So they're trained, and we train them, and we reinforce those things. So it's important to have a caregiver that is a W-2 that knows that they are supervised, and they're rewarded. When they do a good job, we reward them as well.
Right. And so it's kind of like they understand that the buck sort of stops on your desk, and so you're going to really take a look and make sure that they're doing the things the right way, but also from their perspective, and I mean this in a positive way, that they also will look to you to be a good employer and take good care of them. And I heard you say that at the outset, that you really try to maximize the value for the people who come to work to you so that they're very happy in what they're doing when they're helping the clients.
Yeah, and we provide over 500 online training.
Wow.
And on-hand training as well. So our caregivers can move up and earn more money, let's say, and get better experience. So the caregivers is what makes our business.
Yeah.
They really are. They're the heroes of our business. So we got to take care of them, because if we take care of our caregivers, they're going to take care of our clients. And that's important.
As you were saying that, I was thinking everything, all these trails lead you right back to your experience as HR, because really that is the product. Your product is the caregivers, and they are a reflection of your values and your standards and how you and Synergy Care wants to make sure that you're delivering this with excellence. So we've talked a little bit about the importance to check for the licensing. We've talked a little bit about what the difference is and maybe why there could be an advantage to looking at an employee-driven. So you said that's called an agency versus a registry.
Exactly.
So that's something you would tell a family, like if they're saying, well, I've got all these different business cards, how do I know who to pick? That would probably be something you would bring up.
And we educate the clients. Again, if you hire someone on your own, you could also be responsible for not only if they get hurt or something happens in the home, but if you're their employer, the day you're not using that caregiver any longer, you are their employer. The state of Florida can actually, if that caregiver files for unemployment and puts you down as an employer, you could be on the hook for payroll taxes in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I was going to say it seems to be, there's a lot of things that you should do as a senior or a person who's caring for a senior to try to mitigate some risk factors. And I know when we sit down, we talk with elder law attorneys, there's a whole litany of reasons why, for example, you don't want to do your own home, your own legal documents at home, even if they make it sound like it's easy to do on TV. Oh, just click a button and you're done. No, it's not that simple. And I was just thinking about that as you were saying this in the caregivers world too, because, there's things. So Nancy Deerdorf, our director of development, she has this great line. She says, how do you know what you don't know? So you say, okay, well, I bring this person in, I pay them X dollars an hour, and they agreed to come in and do this. And then something happens, they get hurt, and all of a sudden here comes hospital bills your way, or later on they went and filed for unemployment or something, and now you've got the state of Florida asking you, well, this person says they work for you for these, what's this, what's this? Wow, that's pretty complicated stuff that you wouldn't necessarily know you were buying into.
And I educate families on that all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really about, again, having the right person in there, having the peace of mind, and having, that caregiver that's, again, been background checked. That's the biggest thing, the background check.
What other things do you tell families these are things that you should evaluate? Because, again, maybe somebody goes and they get, they're seeing an ad or something, and they say, oh, I should call. I saw an ad on national TV. I should call this 800 number. I always advocate against that, not because I don't think 800 numbers hire good people or have good motives, but I don't necessarily believe that they're local. And that's really the key thing. One of the things we've learned now in the helping seniors world, and talk about it all the time, is that we are 100% local to Brevard charity. And Joe Steckler, our founder, has always been adamant about that, because he said, yes, the issues of aging are kind of universal. If you're growing older in California, you're going to run into a lot of the same issues. But state law is different. Providers are different. And one of the things that you get when you call Synergy, who is, you have the advantage of being connected nationally, but you are 100% local. So somebody's talking to the guy who's running the company. This is your company, and this area. So what's practical, what's not practical, how it works, what doesn't work, right?
Yeah, one of the major complaints, not with my clients, but with the industry as a whole, is caregiver turnover.
Yes.
And if you have someone who's a national vendor, but they're not local, they may be placing a caregiver in your home that lives 25, 30, 40, 50 miles away. Well, that caregiver may accept the case, but after a few days or a few weeks, they quit on you.
Yeah.
So now you're having turnover.
It's not so practical.
Our focus, right. We want to keep our caregivers close to our clients, within 20-minute drive, 25-minute top ride, so that turnover risk is lowered.
That here again, we're back to all these benefits of getting somebody who's got a lifetime of experience in HR, who knows how to seal the deal the right way, I guess. What are other things that you talk to families about and say, these are things that you should be considering?
I think what makes us a little different, we really personalize it.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I tell my clients they have 24/7 access to myself and Anna.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that now. You may call us, the voicemail may pick up, but we'll call you right back.
Yeah.
We don't have an answering service.
Yeah.
So we live this 24/7.
Wow.
That's number one. Number two, I have walked on caregivers at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midnight.
Yeah.
Because, when a caregiver is going to someone's home, they're knocking on the door and it's 12 o'clock midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. They're maybe a little uncomfortable. Who's on the other side of the door? And the family may be a little uncomfortable. Say, hey, somebody's knocking on our door, even though they're expecting somebody. But at 1 o'clock in the morning, who's knocking on our door? So I do that.
I was going to say, I remember you talking. We were at some event, something. You said, "Yeah, I'm helping a family, and I'm going to be out there because I want to make sure the caregiver meets the family, and I want to be there at that moment." Even though, and I remember you saying it was going to be like 10 o'clock tonight or something. I was like, "Wow, that's some long hours for you." But seems like it's really important, and it shows how much you care about making sure it's a good fit.
Yeah, our caregivers are. It's funny. We did this the other day, and there's two caregivers in the home. And they said, wow, we never saw the boss or the owner come out to a family home before.
Wow.
So it made me feel good.
Yeah.
It made me feel good.
Yeah. But there's actually other things that I want us to kind of tap into too, because so all these different things that we're talking about is when you're calling somebody and say, we got to get some help at home. There's also the value of the experience, because most of the time we have another saying. We say, get your ducks in a row. We say, don't try this on your own. Get some expert local help. But a third thing that we say a lot too is don't be an ostrich. Don't stick your head in the sand, because most aging things do not get better with time. So I think, and I've heard Joe talk about this for years, that when you begin a journey with some home care, what you're trying to do is be careful to not get more home care than you need when you start, because at some point something may progress to where you're going to need more. And one of the things that I've heard a lot, and I was going to ask you to comment on this, is that when you've already established a pattern of home care, it's easier to ramp up, change, adjust, go to a higher level, because now you're already sort of used to the flow of that. And also, you have the expertise to help a family understand when that time is, because you see this all the time.
Yeah, when we sit down with clients all the time, we're very flexible.
Yeah.
And sometimes we tell clients we need more help, and sometimes we tell them we need less help.
Right.
Or it could be because of the need, or maybe the budget. So I try to be very creative. Say, let's sit down. Let's talk about what you're looking for. What is your budget? Yeah. What are the needs? And let's work this thing out so it will be workable and a win-win situation. But right, sometimes I have clients that use me 2 days a week. Now they say, hey, I need a third day or a fourth day, and we do that. And they have that same caregiver, which is works out well for the caregiver and the family.
Yeah.
But we can go from 4 days down to 2 days. It all depends on the family need. It's very flexible to them.
Well, and I've also seen you, just anecdotally, when I've talked to you along the way, that you really try to make something work for a family. You said, I've even been very careful just because I knew this family needed this help. So I've tried to, bust a minimum or make, I've seen you get creative to make it work for a family.
Yeah, from all my years of experience, how, and I like to give clients an option.
Yeah.
Mr. Client or Miss Client, these are some options you have. Let's talk about each one. What is better for you? And then as we grow our relationship, we can make the adjustments that we need to make.
Yeah.
But I'm really about flexibility because people need help right now.
And that's so important. And they need the right help and they need the quality help. If we were going to kind of like sum up this conversation about what are the points that you want to look for in home care, maybe you've arrived at the time and you're gonna call somebody or you need to call somebody. Again, let's kind of summarize some of the key points we want them to think about.
Well, one thing to bring up real quick also, we also help veterans. A lot of veterans
good point.
do not know that they have these benefits available to them, either homemaker or aid in attendance. Homemaker is where we help them qualify for it. They apply, and then they receive the homemaker services, a CNA coming to their home, and we bill the VA directly, so no money out of their pocket.
Oh, wow.
And if not, they can also apply for the aid in attendance, where they get a pension to pay for the services.
Wow.
So we do a lot of education. So I work with DAV, Disabled American Veterans, and other groups that educate. So veterans are very important in Brevard County.
Wow.
But really, a lot of the point is you want to choose an agency that you have access to the owners. You really do. All right. An agency that's flexible, that has the personal care license, that they're W-2 caregivers, so they're fully bonded. Insurance is very important to have. And then work with them. Sit down and put a care plan together.
Yeah.
And do it early enough. Don't do it last minute.
Right.
That's key. When you plan ahead. And what's nice about us, Kerry, is that there's no long-term commitment.
Well, isn't that the other thing? It's not like you're signing a contract and 5 years from now you're still in that same thing. And I think that's important, right? Because it ties right back to the flexibility. Needs can change. If somebody's recuperating because they had some situation that took them to a hospital and maybe they had to have some physical therapy or, those kind of things. And the prognosis is they're going to be able to get back on their feet. So maybe that's fine. And then other times it could be the others like, well, we're facing this, but it could progress to that. And so we got to be setting a plan up for that as well.
Yeah, we have families that maybe someone had surgery done.
Yeah.
And they only need help for a weekend.
Yeah.
3 days. That's fine. That's easy. We help. And then if you do have a service through us, you can actually terminate the services with 3-day notice.
Yeah. Well, but I was going to actually ask this point too, because when you said it like that, you could do respite care, right? Because somebody who's a caregiver, they say, wow, before I burn myself out, I need a vacation. And there's things that you could do that might allow that opportunity to refresh, recharge those batteries, and be in a position, because I always use this analogy when they say you get on the airplane and they give you that little lecture, make sure you put your oxygen mask before you're trying to help,
right.
the one next to you, because if you pass out, you can't be much help to them.
That's what I tell clients all the time. You got to help yourself. And again, back to the family that we just started. The gentleman he's a veteran.
Yep.
100 years old.
Wow.
Lives with his daughter.
Wow.
His daughter is by herself, and she's like, I need help. Can you help me 3 days a week?
Yes.
So she can go out and run errands, play cards with her friends.
Yes.
Go shopping, that sort of thing. And it gives her that peace of mind, a little rest physically, emotionally, mentally.
Yeah.
And it helps the relationship between her and her father as well.
Yeah.
So that's respite care, yeah.
I have heard that Nancy Deerdorf, who was a caregiver for members of her own family, she said, I really loved it when I was able to bring in home care, because then I finally got to go back to be the daughter or the sister or what, I didn't have to be having to run and do all this. And that's stressful over time, Carlos. I
had one family, she loved to play golf twice a week.
Oh.
And then she said, let's add a third day because her husband had dementia. So
Yeah.
a lot of our clients have dementia.
Yeah.
So twice a week she go play golf. And then she said, let's add a third day. And she loved the service.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So, again, it's that peace of mind, help the respite care, the family member doesn't get burned out.
Yeah. We're talking with Carlos Cuesta. So you want to jot that name down, Carlos Cuesta. His company is Synergy Home Care of Palm Bay and Melbourne. He's been a great friend of the Helping Seniors organization, gotten involved and really helped us advance our cause. And I really appreciate you sharing the time to kind of like explain things that we want to look for when we're considering home care. Can you give us phone numbers, and what would you tell people the next step should be if they're like, okay, I'm hearing all this and this is something I need to really, kind of bring into focus? What do you want them to do next?
All you need to do is either text me or call me. If you call me, it's a 5-minute conversation.
Yeah.
I can educate you, answer any questions you may have, and you decide what your next steps are, whether it's us or not. But my thing is I want to make sure you get the right information. Our number is 321-340-3828, 321-340-3828, and my personal extension is 101.
Well, that would work. So, Carlos, I was thinking, thank you for sharing this information. We've got to schedule you to come in and do one of the Knowledge College events because, people need to understand, even if you don't need this help right now, I think so many people don't understand what's available. I love telling the story like we were caregivers for our moms and really didn't know where to begin. And that's why the service of an organization like Helping Seniors is so important, because our objective is to educate, inform, and connect seniors and their families to resources that are going to make a difference. Because the more you know, you're going to be more effective at everything you're trying to do, whether it's for yourself, your loved one, somebody in your family. Just knowing this is going to make a difference. So let's give that number. This is Carlos Cuesta with Synergy Home Care. And as you've heard, Carlos is very easily approachable, happy to just visit and kind of share the benefit of his experience, both HR-wise and senior care-wise. How do they reach you again?
Yeah, and no obligation at all. So give me a call. I'd love to have a conversation. My goal is to serve. So my number is 321-340-3828, extension 101.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos, for all the good work you do in the community. And if you don't call him before, come out and join us on Saturday, because we're going to be out there for the Higher Power Car Show. That's right there, as I was mentioning at the opening of the show. It's basically on South Patrick Drive, just within a half mile or mile south of the entrance gate to the Space Force Base. And what a great car show that's going to be. It's going to be our first chance to get out there and start pumping up about the Helping Seniors car raffle tickets. And it's just a pleasant event. And there are some really exotic cars that end up out there. We go to a lot of the car shows, but there's something special about this one. It just seems to draw like some really amazing vehicles out there. And so it's fun whether you're into the cars or you just want to walk around and enjoy the atmosphere. It's just a great place to be. And
it's
Carl's
free, right?
Yeah,
free.
It's free.
No charge.
Yeah, you just come on out and enjoy the fun. They got food. We got raffle tickets. We got cars out there. And it's going to be a fun time. Well, that's the time that we have for Helping Seniors Radio this week. Thank you for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you right back here next Wednesday, 12 noon.